It is a great honor to be here with you today. I think I'm going to pick up exactly where JB left off in talking about talent for the 21st century and how social entrepreneurship is an important part of this. So most of us, probably all of us, remember what happened a month ago when young people in Tahrir Square led a revolution that precipitated the exit of Mubarak. And there are a couple remarkable things about what happened in Egypt. One is that this group was not a formally organized group of young people. They organized themselves. And after Mubarak left, they actually came back to Tahrir Square and cleaned up the square. Another remarkable thing is how much social entrepreneurship was involved in the revolution. So you can see, I wasn't there, but a colleague of mine from Ashoka was, and she brought back some photos. And what you can see in these photos are flag vendors, a kindergarten, food stalls, a clinic, a pharmacy. This was all set up by a variety of young leaders and other leaders and social entrepreneurs. And it led to a very organized revolution. What I've been asking myself is, what's next for these young people who led this revolution? Was this a one-time event? Where would their paths take them? And what does this have to do with the companies in this room, or more directly, what does this have to do with you? So, three things that I think are important considerations as we rethink talent, and probably all of them will resonate with you. One is jobs and productivity. So I'm guessing that many of you, or most of you, were or are employers and had to think about this. Social problems. Probably all of you are here, at least in part, because you care about social issues and want to make a difference. And young people you love. So many or most of you probably have children or grandchildren or other young people in your lives whom you care about. So where am I coming from, and what is Ashoka, and why do I have something to say about this? So Ashoka is known for several things. One is venture philanthropy. Back in the 1970s, Ashoka's founder, a guy named Bill Drayton, had this idea of taking a venture capital approach to social change, to philanthropy. And back in the 70s, there wasn't even a whole lot of venture capital, so this was a pretty revolutionary idea. And so Ashoka set out to start this venture philanthropy movement. The other thing that Ashoka did was coin this term social entrepreneur. And in fact, many of the social entrepreneurs, or most of them that you have heard from or will be hearing from, have something to do with Ashoka in one way or another. Many of them were supported by Ashoka. And so Ashoka set out to build this field of social entrepreneurship. The third thing that is a big focus of Ashoka is this notion of a change maker. Well, what is a change maker? Change maker is basically anyone who, of his or her own initiative, sees a problem, decides to do something about it, devises a solution, mobilizes others, and brings about positive change. This could be in your workplace, this can be in your community, in your school, in society broadly. And Ashoka's realized that there's a huge need for the innovators and these social entrepreneurs, but there's an equally huge need for the change makers. So let's take Muhammad Yunus as an example. Yunus pioneered the microfinance industry, and most of us know that he won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work. But for Yunus and Grameen Bank to be successful, you needed thousands and thousands, and last I counted there were 7,000, but I'm sure there are many more, other change makers who took that idea of microfinance and built out the social change that microfinance has led to. So you need both the innovators and the social entrepreneurs, but you also need a huge supply of these change makers to take these ideas and build out the change. So how do you get that supply of change makers? If there are 2 points that I would make to you, it would be that any individual who is a change maker generally will be more successful in life. And communities that have more change makers, and by community this could be a company, it can be Naples, a geographic community, it could be an industry, a field, the agriculture industry, that have more change makers generally will be more successful. And hopefully I'll be able to illustrate for you why. So let's talk about jobs. This has been a big topic, and we talked about it a bit this morning. And I think a lot of what was said this morning will resonate with what I'm about to say. So you need entrepreneurship to create jobs, that we know. But what we're also learning is that the kinds of jobs that are being created require a different skill set. And we would call that changemaker skills. Which means that those jobs that are lost probably aren't coming back, and the new jobs that are being created require a different kind of talent, which means that employers that are hiring are having a hard time filling the jobs. So you need both changemakers to create the jobs, and you need changemakers to fill the jobs. So how do you get these changemakers? And then on top of that, there's another important point, was that changemakers are actually seeking more than just a job. So just to illustrate these points, over the past 25 years, approximately, most or all net new jobs that were created in the US were created by new companies, by startups, by entrepreneurs. And meanwhile, Manpower is one of our partners. They do an annual survey of companies, and they found that companies generally are still having a hard time filling jobs in spite of the recession, in spite of 8 million unemployed people or more. So the US is having a hard time. Mexico is having a hard time. Germany and India are even having a harder time filling jobs since the beginning of the recession than they were before. So clearly there's a talent mismatch. So what are employers looking for? What we've found, and a number of companies have written about this, Cisco has written a lot about this, is that generally employers are looking for entrepreneurship, we talked about this morning, leadership and empathy, team skills, communication skills, and so forth. So imagine that this is one of your employees. I saw a problem, and I got the team together, and we devised a solution, and we're working on implementing it with other colleagues, and I just wanted to check, is this okay? Am I moving in the right direction? So this is kind of a dream, right? You cut these people loose, they go out, they're self-starters, they solve these problems, and you check in with them every once in a while, or they check in with you. An employer, I think, has a great quote, which is basically that, so this is even more important in this new information-based economy that's rapidly changing. So jobs that were created that are existing today may not exist in the future, and jobs that will exist in the future may not exist today. So not only do you need changemakers generally to be self-starters, but you especially need changemakers in this new economy. So going back to what I do for a living, I'm cultivating these changemakers, and I'll give you a couple examples of them. And basically what we do is we reach out to young people, we inspire them, we support them in designing and launching their first civic-minded venture. And that experience is a very transformative experience, which basically puts them on the path of being changemakers for life. It's totally simple, it's easily replicated. It could easily be replicated in Naples. It's not the silver bullet, just like any of these other solutions, but it's one. So Talia is one example. Talia, at age 10, generally we work with 12 to 20-year-olds. She happened to be 10 when she launched her venture with Youth Venture. Is from Des Moines, Iowa, and was very motivated by Hurricane Katrina and wanted to do something about it. So she mobilized kids across Des Moines and then ultimately nationally to raise money to support Hurricane Katrina victims. And the results of her campaign were pretty impressive. She mobilized about $10 million and about 11 million kids, which put her in the top 5 of corporations and their investment in Hurricane Katrina. So Talia, actually, she would argue that she is not at all special. She is a random kid. But I'll give you a couple other examples. Actually, quickly with Talia. So another remarkable thing about her work is that she basically invests in youth enterprises that make money, and the returns on those investments are typically 300 to 1,000%. So for the investors in the room, it's a pretty good investment. And then they plow all that money into social change. So Connell's another example. He started the world's first chamber of commerce for young business executives and social entrepreneurs. He's a sophomore at Howard University and is running his Chamber of Commerce on the side. Jason started second-year bikes about 10 years ago at age 15. He's now getting his CPA and is a CFO of a company. So the question is obvious. Who wouldn't want to hire this kind of talent to work for your company? And just a couple other examples is with these changemaker skills, when you increase those changemaker skills in a young person, it generally leads to higher wages and a higher probability of graduating from college. Or another example is leadership positions. If they hold leadership positions, they end up with higher wages as adults. So, and these are some of the results, and I don't have time to go through them, or I'd be glad to. But generally, they're more confident, they take on more leadership roles, they leverage the investment about 1,000%, and they're more interested in entrepreneurship. The average college student has about a 3.7 GPA who runs a venture with Youth Venture. Speaks 2 languages, spent about 6 months abroad, 3 internships, and so forth. So what this means with universities is that they generally want to admit change makers into their universities. NYU is one example. We've been working with them for about 6 years. And what they told me is that they have the kids who for sure get in, the kids who for sure are rejections, and there's a huge swath in the middle that they call interchangeables. And they said the distinguishing characteristic for those interchangeables is whether or not those kids are change makers. So this goes back to companies. One question that a lot of companies ask me is, why would change makers want to work for my company? And it's especially relevant when job satisfaction is lower. So we ask the change makers what they want in a job. And generally what we've heard is a mission and a purpose. Working for a company that they believe is socially responsible, a chance to take initiative and be a change maker. And these young change makers, the entire youth population, you should know it's volunteering at 2 times the rate of adults. So this is really important to them. What Wendy Kopp said yesterday is that 18% of Harvard graduating seniors applied for jobs that Teach for America. What she didn't say is what that means in terms of competition for the other employers. And similarly with my organization, Ashoka, we had 1,000 applicants and only hired 33 people. So this is getting very competitive. So this brings us back to social problems. What if the companies, like the companies that we work with, provided that mission and purpose that would drive and motivate this young talent and all talent to be successful in their work and create the success of the company? So I won't go through all of these, but these are some examples of the kinds of goals that companies that I work with have set out for themselves. So if we believe that most productivity is going to come from human capital, and we believe that the kind of human capital that we need are generally change makers, and we believe that what drives that human capital is a mission and purpose, then could it be possible that the companies, the employers that are employing them, provide that mission and purpose that will both support the success of that company and the success of the impact that they would have in the world, and be able to answer the question of how will the world be different because we are here? Which brings me back to the young people you love. If young people generally will be more successful in life because they're change makers, and society will be more successful because there are more change makers, then what do you want for the future of the young people in your lives? And what do you want for the future of society? Thanks.